Hi everybody, welcome to today's webinar. We got a good crowd. We're excited you're here today. I'm really excited to have Ryan Shank with us, the COO of Mhelpdesk, who's joined us today. We've got a great presentation set up actually. We're going to talk a little bit about how each of our tools can improve marketing and sales strategies in 2014, strategies that ultimately can make you more money. That's ultimately what it's all about, right, is improving your revenue, and that's what we're here to help you do today. So we've got a couple of announcements, if you will, before we get going. First, if you have questions, please type those into the little question bar on your GoToWebinar screen there, and we'll address those at the conclusion of the presentation. To give you a little bit of background on the LogMyCalls webinar series, first of all, LogMyCalls is a call analytics and call tracking platform. So what we do is we tell companies which advertising, which campaigns, which keywords, etc., generate phone calls. And then we also record calls and analyze calls using some pretty sophisticated speech recognition technology that can tell, was there an appointment booked on a call, was there a purchase made over the phone, that sort of thing. So we can give you all that sort of information. Now, as far as our webinars, our whole goal is to provide useful information. So we've been hosting 1 to 2 webinars a week probably now for about a year. So all of those webinar recordings, by the way, are in logmycalls.com/webinar. There's over about 85, 90 webinars there now. So you can get in there and you can see you can watch any of the webinars without filling out a form. So you can just watch the content, and hundreds of people have watched each webinar. So we're excited to offer that to you today as well. This webinar will be recorded, so you can have access to it after the fact also. So with that, let's introduce Ryan real quick, and then I will actually take a moment and go through a few slides and talk about improving some marketing and sales strategy. And then Ryan will do the same. So Ryan, as I said, is the COO of Mhelpdesk. His company and he have been featured in a variety of different media outlets, including TechCrunch and the Wall Street Journal, and even in Forbes. He's been repeatedly listed as one of America's top young entrepreneurs in a variety of places. And seems like a fairly good dude. So we're excited Ryan's agreed to join us today for the webinar. Ryan, anything to add before I get going on my slides?
Thank you, McKay. No, so just wanted to say thanks for having us. Thanks for having me here. I am a big fan of tracking calls and marketing campaigns, and one thing that we've learned through our system is that a lot of small business owners they don't actually track their marketing campaigns down to like the granular level, and what we want and what we're starting to see is that it's really valuable so that you can know exactly which campaigns are working, using a system like this, and then kind of something like Mhelpdesk that helps you really see down to the invoice and payment. You can kind of see that the entire life cycle from the leads that come in down to how much the leads that came in actually brought you in real revenue. So it's really exciting and interesting on our end. But again, thanks for having us, and definitely looking forward to kind of seeing what you guys have to offer in this.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. So what we'll do, I will talk through a few data points and some slides here. I'll probably take about 15 to 20 minutes, then we'll turn it over to Ryan, who will take some time as well, and then we'll take questions. So our goal here is not necessarily to tell you how awesome our tools are, hopefully you see that, but to give you data points that can actually improve your revenue in 2014 and give you tactical ways to improve your revenue and strategy. So off we go. So the title of the webinar is, of course, 4 marketing and sales strategies to make more money in 2014. Let's talk a little bit about what LogMyCalls is first. It's a call tracking and call analytics platform. It provides lead scoring, conversion tracking for the phone. And then a couple of weeks ago, we just launched a tool called Conversation Analytics. It just came out of beta. And basically what it does, as I said a moment ago, is it analyzes the content of the call. And so it can literally tell you if there was an appointment booked on the call, and of course where your call originated. So did your call come as a result of an ad in a local directory, or on the radio, or a Google organic search, or Google AdWords? Because of this tool, we were actually awarded the Amazon Web Services Global Startup Grand Prize. There were 2,500 companies from 85 countries that entered, and we won. So we were excited about that. It's used by thousands of businesses all over North America predominantly. So let's talk about marketing and sales strategies. Now this is an interesting data point, I think, that is pretty telling and pretty disturbing also. So according to the Daily Business News, an article published in September of this year, 73% of small businesses are unaware of how their customers find them. So the vast majority, almost 3 out of 4 small businesses say someone walks in the door, they buy something, or they call and they buy something, or they make an appointment, whatever. They are unaware of how that customer found them. That's a problem. That's a big problem, because that means you don't have full visibility into what your marketing budget's doing, and you don't know as much as you possibly could about your customer. So if you're getting customers and you don't know where they're coming from, you're certainly not optimizing your marketing spend or your ability to gather more customers. So if you're a heating and cooling company, for example, and you don't know why someone called you or how they found you, that's an issue. And that's going to cost you money in the long term and probably short term too. So they don't know, of course, how many visitors their site generates generally. They don't know how many phone calls their websites generate. And they don't know how many phone calls their various campaigns generate. So if you do a direct mail campaign and you don't know how many calls that mailer produced, that's an issue. Or if you don't know how many phone calls or visits an organic search is generating, that's an issue as well. Now, this is a really interesting data point from IBM. They did a huge study where they talked to like 8,500 marketers across every single type of business you can imagine. We're talking small businesses, big businesses, B2B companies, B2C companies. And this was the data point they emerged with. Companies that measure their marketing closely generate 40% more revenue than companies that don't. So that's what it boils down to right there, is the ability to easily and quickly measure marketing actually improves revenue. Now, obviously there's maybe a few other factors at work here, right? So generally companies that are measuring their marketing are probably going to be a little more on the ball in other areas as well. Maybe they're recording calls, or maybe they're using tools like Mhelpdesk to help them manage their whole process. So there's other factors, but fact remains, companies that measure their marketing generate 40% more revenue than companies that don't. So how do customers find you? This data point comes from Google. 97% of internet users search for a local business every week. So for people that are in the U.S. online, 97% of them search for a local business every single week. So if you're in the local space, right, if you're an HVAC company, if you're a local plumber, if you're a auto repair shop, regardless of what the local business is, you're getting searched for at least every week on Google. That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. That's how customers predominantly are finding you. They're searching. So what can you do? First thing you can do, and it's surprising how many companies aren't doing these basic things, is first of all track your web traffic. Track your visits, track your conversion rates, your location for your website. Google Analytics is a free tool that does this, relatively easy to set up, and you can see very easily which sources are generating visits and ultimately leads. And then the second thing I would recommend that's also very basic is use basic call tracking. Place unique local phone numbers on your site. You can log in and easily see the number of calls, where the callers are coming from, unique calls. You can listen to calls. And I'll talk about some of the data we can extract from calls as well. So I wanted to provide a little case study here. This is from a local HVAC company. This is a local business. They have one location, 7 or 8 employees. And they did not know where their calls were coming from. They were concerned that they were actually missing a lot of calls. In other words, not answering the phone as often as they should. And they wanted to hear their calls. So they started using LogMyCalls. They used call tracking on their website, so they can track the number of calls that come from organic search, pay-per-click ads, radio, local ads, etc. And here's what they found. They found that 40% of their calls came from organic Google search. That was much higher than they anticipated. They thought most of their calls were coming from word-of-mouth advertising locally. Instead, they found the majority, or the plurality, if you will, of calls were coming from Google Organic. And then this one was staggering to me. 38% of calls were not being answered. So that's incredible. So if every call, let's just use a round number. Let's say that the average ticket price of a service with an HVAC company is $100. It's more than that, but let's just use that number because it's easy. Every call is potentially worth $100. If you get, 100 calls in a month, and you're missing 38 of those calls, you're literally not answering them, that's a big deal. And that's a huge amount of lost revenue a month, potentially. So we actually had a sort of an aside. We actually work with MoneyMailer Corporate, and they have had a large client that they were sharing this same story about, that this client called MoneyMailer and said, gosh, you guys are you're not generating enough calls for us. And the MoneyMailer pulled up the LogMyCalls account and said, well, we are, but we're showing that almost half of your calls aren't being answered. So you're losing out on revenue. We might as well not generate the calls because you're not answering them. So these data points alone change a business and produce more revenue. Now, the other side of this in terms of sales processes is, what do your employees sound like on the phone? What do you sound like on the phone? So a lot of businesses that have employees that are going out doing work calls, or they're out in the vehicle all day long. They're maybe taking calls on their cell phone. Oftentimes when a customer calls, we sound pretty stressed in those scenarios, right? I mean, you're maybe working on something. You get a phone call from a potential customer. Maybe you sound rushed, you sound stressed, you sound hurried. That customer's turned off. Trust me, they are not calling your business because they want to. They're calling your business because they have a need. And if they don't buy from you, they're going to buy from somebody. And it's not going to be you, and you're not going to get that revenue. And so it's important to know how our employees and how we sound on the phone when we're talking to potential customers, because nothing turns off a customer faster than somebody who sounds stressed or irritated or in a rush, because they're not going to feel like they're getting taken care of. The other thing that we hear a lot on the phone as we listen to calls is we actually hear people saying, well, why don't you call me back later, or I'll call you back later. It's like, you know what? The most important thing you could be doing right now is getting new business for your company. So if someone's calling you, wanting you to fix their computer, or fix their their Windows, or whatever product or service you offer, if someone's calling you for that, you better make sure you set up an appointment so you can go and take care of that business and get that revenue. Because I can promise you, if they don't get a good response on the phone, they will go to somebody else. They just will. And so listening to calls is super important. And you can do that within LogMyCalls, by the way. You can see the screenshot we've pulled up here. There's a play button, that's the word, a play button that you can push that will allow you to play the call within the system itself, so you can really analyze what's going on the call. Now, the other thing that I want to mention briefly before we get it over to Ryan is this tool we just launched, which is called Conversation Analytics. So as we said a moment ago, call tracking, basic call tracking, can tell you essentially where your calls are coming from, right? It can tell you how many came from your radio ad versus direct mail versus the coupon versus organic search versus any other paid stuff online you might be doing. It can tell you all that. But it doesn't actually tell you what happens on the phone. And that's what Conversation Analytics does. So literally what it does is it looks at the call with speech recognition technology in an automated way and says, okay, based on the words and phrases used in the call, was there an appointment set? Was there, did the person answering the call handle the call well? Were they polite? Did they specifically ask for an appointment? Or on the other hand, were they rude? Did the customer get agitated? Was the customer complaining about something? How much negative emotion was there on the call versus satisfaction on the call? So long story short, it can literally measure what happened on the call without listening to the call. Now the cool thing about this is, let's say that you had a call that was a really high quality lead. So this is a lead that maybe Googled your company and then used a lot of phrases that would indicate they were a good lead. So they talked about how they were interested, or they need this, or they need that. That would indicate they're a high-quality lead. But maybe it is also there was not a conversion on the call. So in other words, our system could tell that it didn't actually result in a booked appointment or closed business. That's a missed opportunity. And so our system is 100% confident that's a missed opportunity. Well, instead of just getting a report that shows the number of missed opportunities you've had in a week, our system can literally send you an email or a text message that says, hey, you just had a missed opportunity. Fix it. So you can then call that person back and say, you know what, I understand you just maybe had a bad experience with our receptionist. What can we help you with? So there's a lot of ways, not just to get data and see it, but to actually automatically and automatedly use it in a real-time way. So that's important. So here's a few of the things it can track. It can track lead quality, how sales ready a caller is, whether or not the person on the phone had good sales performance. Did they mention a competitor? Did you get a commitment to buy? Did you receive a compliment? Or agitation level, as we said, or missed opportunities as well. Just to give you another visual as to how it works, the conversation goes into our engine and stuff comes out the other side. That's useful. So just to recap my portion before we send it over to Ryan is first, companies that measure their marketing make more money than companies that don't, period. They just do. That's a pretty critical element of any campaign is measuring it. And then second, companies that measure their sales processes, whether it's with call recording or a tool like conversation analytics, those companies are going to have more revenue because they're tracking what happens on the phone and they're learning about what happens. Now, I'll be honest, some companies are not a fit for LogMyCalls. Companies that don't get a lot of phone calls. But I can assure you, knowing Mhelpdesk customers and knowing what types of businesses that they work with, these types of businesses, HVAC, repair shops, people call in because it's a rather complex thing. They're not going to fill out a form that says, repair my guitar or repair my computer or fix my window. They want to call and talk to somebody. Calls are critically important to your businesses, and that's what we're here to help with. So you can take advantage of this. Just sign up for LogMyCalls. We offer a 15-day free trial. It's on our site. I'll actually pull it up real quick here so you can see it. So this is logmycalls.com. The pricing page is here. And our internet is slow internally today. So you can see $69 account specifically for small businesses, 15-day free trial. It's $69 a month, and you get call recording, you get call tracking, and you get a limited number, 30 calls a month that are analyzed, which is actually quite a bit. So anyway, that's a really good tool. It's a useful way to track what's going on at your business. So with that, Ryan, I think I'll shoot it over to you, sir. All right, Ryan, I think I just made you presenter, so you can show your screen whenever you're ready.
All right, fantastic. And
I can see it.
Awesome. So that was super interesting. We are huge fans of call tracking and measuring ad performance and marketing performance. It's one thing that we've seen, and we actually did a study, and we found that businesses so they're getting calls, they're getting leads, right? They're either buying them, they're getting word of mouth, or people are just finding them online. And then they're actually kind of fumbling those leads, and the reason for that is that they don't have a proper system in place to actually manage all of their jobs, all of their work orders, and then also their field technicians. So a lot of businesses that we deal with are small businesses, usually in the service and repair industries, that have to either go out on site or they're fixing something in the shop, right? So one of the things that businesses create, obviously, are work orders. Some people call them service requests, some call them tickets, jobs, whatever. Just in this use case, I'm calling them work orders, right? So they'll get the lead in, they'll get the phone calls, and a thing, just like you were saying, 38% of the people don't answer the phone. That's obviously a huge problem. But then another problem is once you actually have the jobs, making sure that you manage the job properly. So what we've done is we've actually, can you see my screen still?
Yes, we can.
All right, sorry about that. So basically what we did is we saw that people were either using a paper-based system and then sending either a text message or calling their field techs, telling them about the job. The field tech would go there with like a paperwork order, maybe have to call back to the office to confirm exactly what he was doing. Maybe he went there for a simple diagnosis, but he thinks he's there to actually fix like a light bulb in a refrigerator. So there's like this broken system of lack of communication between the office, the field tech, and then obviously the customer as well. So what we did is we kind of created this beautiful SaaS system, software as a service, web-based and mobile app that combines everything. So it combines the work orders, So the person in the office could actually take the work order, the customer's information from the lead that would have came in through the phone call, create the work order, and then schedule it. But not only schedule it, assign it to a specific technician or field rep that's going to go and do the job. Or maybe they're going to assign it to someone to go and just do an estimate, right? So we've kind of streamlined. You create the work order, you drag and drop it onto the calendar of the field tech that you actually want to do it. They get a notification on their mobile app. They can update the status of the job, and then from there, one click, they can create an estimate, create an invoice, and accept payment through the mobile app, and it updates everyone back in the office in real time. So it really streamlines the entire process and the entire life cycle of these service calls from start to finish. And not only that, is if you see your marketing spend, you see, okay, I'm driving phone calls from this source. Say you spend $1,000 right on AdWords, and you get, let's say, 10 phone calls, right? So it's $100 per phone call, whatever it is. But you see that those 10 phone calls are generating you $15,000 in invoices. You can really track your return on ad spend by marketing channel. So it's very, very effective. And not only knowing where the phone calls or the marketing is coming from, but being able to kind of track, measure, and then throw money on the campaigns that are performing. Another thing that our system does for businesses is it gives them visibility, and it gives them visibility over what their field techs are doing, where their field techs are, and then that'll also help them optimize the scheduling based on availability and distance to the actual job. Not only that, it gives the field techs access to customer information and job information in the field in real time. So I had a customer tell me that their main problem was that the field techs would actually get to the job site, and then they wouldn't know like an alternative phone number, or they wouldn't know, maybe like a garage door code, because that was their instructions on how to get into the house, because it was the daytime. They're a trusted company, whatever. The guy said, hey, just go in through the garage door. You guys come here, every 6 months. It's fine. But he didn't have like the certain information that he needed, so he would have to call back to the office. The office is obviously on other calls or dealing with administrative tasks. Like, it was this broken system that didn't really work. So what we do now is it gives the technicians access to all that information, all the customer information, and at the same time it's giving the office visibility over their field techs. So that's kind of what our system does at a high level, and the value that it's bringing to businesses. And again, 72% of businesses are not using any system right now. They're using literally like paper, or they're using like just Excel, and then they're using like Outlook, and then like QuickBooks. So it's like these systems that don't talk to each other. So what we're doing is we're kind of just we're changing that. One easy-to-use system, dead simple, visibility and access. If you want, you can give us a call. We can do a live demo. We have a team of product specialists that really dive into this every day, all day. Screen share, super easy to use. And then we also have a free trial. But what we're doing today, along with LogMyCalls, is that we're giving a 20% discount on the monthly fee for the entire life of the account. And we want to just kind of show you. Again, we have product specialists that can answer the phone. They can show you how it works. We're willing to do the discount today for you guys. So give us a call. We'd love to show you at least how it works and if it makes sense to use in your business. So with that, thank you guys for having us here, and we'd love to answer any questions. I'll turn back over to McKay to answer any questions that you may have.
Great. We've already got a few questions coming in, Ryan. Here's a couple for you real quick. So talk about the types of businesses that you guys work with. What is the profile? What are the common features of the businesses you guys accept as clients, if you will?
So we have a ton of different clients. The main businesses that work with us, again, are service-based businesses who usually go out to job sites because they see the most value, especially out of our mobile. But types of businesses include IT contractors, HVAC, plumbing, electricians. But then we also get the other side, like maid service, carpet cleaners, pest control, those type of businesses, again, that are just sending one out to the job site. They have like either technicians or crews in the field.
Perfect. Now, I see on your site, too, there's a lot of sort of computer repair businesses and things like that. Those they're talking that they would have text going out as well. So any business that has text going out to locations is a perfect fit for your tool, right?
Yeah, and well, again, also our big clients, the computer repair and IT, a lot of them do have what we call like in shop. So they don't necessarily go out, but they still have a need for like a ticketing system, assigning that system to a specific technician to work on the job. So even if they don't have to go out on site, computer repair shops are a really good example, because we also have an asset tracking feature that will allow them to really keep track of kind of what they're working on with barcodes. It's really cool. So we do have in shops, but mainly it's service in shops as opposed to like a POS, like a point of sale system.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. And the other question, same one for me, is who do you guys typically work with? So yeah, we work with, it's a little bit of a wider variety maybe than what Ryan's describing for his company, just because that calls are important across a lot of spaces. So first group, I'd say there's 3 groups. First group, we work with local small businesses that are just like what Ryan has described. So repair businesses, HVAC companies, window guys, roofer guys, any home repair, automotive, any place that you would call first, that's who we work with on the local level. We then also work with a lot of agencies, so marketing agencies that are providing services like SEO services or PPC services to their clients. We work with those companies because they will then provide call tracking to their clients as well, so they can get credit for the leads they're pushing their clients. And then third, we do work with a fair number of large companies that have like lots of locations. So a tire company that maybe has 2,000 locations or something. So we work with a lot of businesses all over the map, based on one thing and one thing only is, do calls matter? And that's really our only criteria, is do calls matter? The other question that's coming up here a lot is, what do your typical price points look like, Ryan? What is a monthly fee? How does it work? Is it based on the number of texts you have going out? What does the volume look like in terms of pricing? How does it look?
Absolutely. So we have a flex pricing schedule based on the number of users. It averages to about $25 per user per month, depending on, again, the number of users.
Okay, makes sense. The other question is one for me that is based on sort of the first data point I pulled, which is we talked about how most users find people after a Google search in this day and age. That's just the way it happens. How aren't people finding them is the question. Well, we've done a lot of research, and I mean that's the number one thing we track, so we know precisely how your customers are not finding you. So sadly, as much as I do miss the old yellow pages, most people, about 85% of people, throw their yellow pages that they get away in the trash in the first day or 2 after they get it. And then we've done extensive testing and analysis on online campaigns versus offline campaigns. Typically, the only real offline campaigns that work are radio. Radio will generate quite a few calls, and direct mail generates calls. But local yellow page ads, local newspaper ads, those things just don't generate calls unless you're in like a very niche market. Like if you're in maybe a snowbird place, maybe you're in certain areas of Florida where there's a lot of senior citizens, or you're in Scottsdale where there's a lot of senior citizens. It's pretty much direct mail, radio, and then all online. So a lot of those things that have worked, maybe even just 5-10 years ago, don't work anymore. We're seeing that. The other thing we're seeing too is a shift to mobile. So calls, of course, from smartphones, but after a mobile search. So someone will get on their smartphone, they'll be like, I need a new air conditioner. They're just sitting there, watching TV, and the AC goes out or the heat goes out. They Google it on their smartphone. And so we're seeing a lot of calls from mobile. So that is just, even though it has nothing to do with either one of our businesses, get your site mobile ready. Make sure it's a mobile-friendly site, that the numbers are clickable, so you can actually receive calls and leads from smartphone searches, which are becoming more common every single day. A couple more questions for you, Ryan, that are coming in. Do you guys, let's see here if I understand this question actually. Do you guys have data about maybe, I'm sure there was a need, I guess the best way to ask this question is, I'm sure there was a need you guys sought to fill. Were people not, in the industries that you guys serve, were people not handling, did they not have visibility into what the technicians were doing out on the road? What was the biggest need you guys saw that said, I want to fill this need What is the biggest problem that your tool solves, I guess, is another way to ask it.
Sure, absolutely. So the biggest problem actually wasn't visibility. It was the fact that they were mishandling the way that their work orders were getting handled, and it was a lot of. We initially wanted to solve the double data entry problem because, like I said, people were using either a paper-based system, which ultimately had to get entered somewhere online for like accounting purposes. So say they use paper-based system all the way up to QuickBooks, and then their accountant required that they use QuickBooks, so they had to finally enter the invoices into QuickBooks or something like that. And then we started to see that people were using, they'll use like Excel, and then they'll use maybe Outlook or Google Calendar, and then they'll use like an invoicing program, maybe FreshBooks or something like that, and then they still had to push it into QuickBooks. So we initially set out to solve the double data entry problem, but then we increasingly saw the need for mobile when people were either dropping the ball. So we had a number of clients that were like, I sent this tech 7 jobs, and he only came back with 5 job tickets. So what happened? And it's like, maybe you didn't send him 7, or maybe 2 of the jobs were cash jobs. He pocketed the cash, and then he only turned in 5 job tickets. So we're starting to see that now businesses really want visibility over every single thing that's happening, because maybe some of their jobs are getting pocketed by the technicians and they're actually not getting paid for all of them. Or what we've seen is that if it's a cash payment, they'll write up a paper invoice of only maybe 3 line items when there was really 5, and then they'll pocket 2 of the line items, so they'll turn in a partial payment. So we are seeing like all these crazy things happening in this space. Besides just the visibility, besides like, make life easier, we're seeing like real problems that we wanted to solve, and that weren't being met at current state when people were using like a paper-based system. So that's kind of what we saw in the industry as a whole, that we knew that there was a need for this.
That is really interesting, actually. That's fascinating. I'll take the same question too. The problem that arises when people aren't tracking their marketing is they make poor decisions. So I mean, I'm in the marketing department here at LogMyCalls, and when we don't track everything effectively, we make poor marketing decisions. And that's the bottom line. I mean, we actually talked to a guy, this is actually fairly recent, who had been spending about $10,000 every year on a specific lead source that he thought was working. He thought that's where all of his leads came from. Well, it turned out we tested it literally. He wanted to test it for a year, and his $10,000 lead source generated 8 calls in 12 months. And he was like, oh my gosh, I've been wasting a huge amount of money, where other sources were generating, a call for every 60, 50, 50, 60 bucks he spent. This source was generating a call every, $1,300 or something. So there's a massive issue there. The other thing, and I totally agree with what Ryan's saying with their actual problems, is it stuns me when I listen to calls and hear how employees handle potential customers. Owners of businesses spend massive amounts of money to get the phone to ring. And when it rings and it either is unanswered, or the person who answers it is too busy to take care of that person or sell them something, my goodness, it flabbergasts me. That's a good word, by the way, flabbergast. It does. It baffles me that leads are treated in that way. So anyway, I think
and I completely agree too. Phone calls for small businesses are almost a form of currency. And even here, when our phone rings, it's literally like, okay, that's a potential revenue coming in. It's like you really have to treat it like such.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, and your tool, it looks like on the back end, does a really great job of streamlining the whole process and making sure that people have visibility into exactly what happens at every stage. So, more than I even anticipated, honestly. It sounds like both tools would be useful to use in tandem. So, you know what? We've had some great questions, Ryan. Thanks for your time today. We really appreciate it. Everybody, thanks for attending the webinar today. It's been really good. Hope it's been useful to you. So I think the takeaways are, I'll summarize if I can, is first, make sure you track your marketing. That's important, goes without saying. Second is track your sales processes, whether they're from phone calls, via phone calls, via phone call tracking and conversation analytics. And then also third, make sure that you're getting total visibility into what's happening inside of your business, and that I mean, it's 2013. We don't need to be using spreadsheets and all sorts of stuff like that anymore. There's tools that, like Mhelpdesk, that can help us with that. So, Ryan, any final thoughts from you before we close, sir?
Just again, kind of just summing up what you said as to really what we say is, what you track grows, or what you measure grows, right? So we want to track everything, all of our marketing channels and all of our processes, be laser focused on that so that you can see what's working, what's not. Always do tests, test different marketing channels, A/B test landing, everything that you can to get the most out of your ad spends, and then ultimately on the back end, once you actually get the leads and new jobs coming through the door, don't fumble on them as well. I mean, you worked really hard to generate that new business, whether it was from word of mouth or through a marketing channel that you finally got to work. Don't drop the ball on managing the job across the finish line to getting paid, and that's kind of my last takeaway.
Great. Ryan, thanks for your time today. We appreciate it. I encourage you to go to Mhelpdesk or just call the number on your screen there. Take advantage of their 20% discount. And then also go to LogMyCalls.com, check out our pricing, give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. We work with a lot of companies in your space. So anyway, thanks for the time today, everybody. We appreciate it. As we said, this webinar was recorded. It will be sent to you tomorrow morning, the recording will, and posted on LogMyCalls.com/webinar, LogMyCalls.com/webinar. Thanks again, everybody, and Ryan, thank you, sir. Have a great day.
All right, thanks, guys.